Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Gatekeepers. I am Bishop Vanessa Brown, your host and moderator for this evening. We're so excited that you are here with us on tonight. I am sharing. I want you to share and let folks know that we are on. We have an incredible show in store for you on tonight. We are grateful for you being here. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Instagram, if you're on LinkedIn, then you should see our show. And so we're very grateful to have you here tonight. We want you to share with your family, with your friends. I believe that this is going to be a powerful conversation. Share with other pastors, other bishops, other clergy folks. Let them know that we are on Beyond the Gatekeepers tonight, and we want you to join in on the conversation. Grateful because we've been having some very powerful conversations over the last couple of weeks, last 6 weeks or so. And we've been really doing well. And so we're grateful for that. I want to start shouting out people. So y'all do me a favor. Make sure you tell us, where you're from, and you know, the city and state you're from, so that we can be in sync and shout you out. We are grateful that you take your time out to listen to us, to hear, that you share. We pray that you believe that it is good information. I believe that it's more than good information. It's great information, right? It's things that people need to hear and people need to know. And this particular discussion tonight, I'm very keen on. I want us to hear, and I want us to participate in this conversation where we can, where it makes sense to you. I want you to be able to do that. So I see people coming in, and I am grateful for your presence. Let me start shouting you out. Our dear Reverend Reginald Nichols is here. Decatur, Georgia is in the house right now. Mother Elaine Jones, San Francisco, California, City of Refuge, United Church of Christ. Dear brother Chuck Jones is here. Also, Palm Springs, California, but also COR. We're grateful for you. Bishop Bonnie Radden is here. Refiner's Fire in Las Vegas, Nevada. Grateful for your presence, Bishop. Pastor Seafried Benton is here from Temple Hills, Maryland. Welcome, Pastor. Thank you for being here. We appreciate your support. Brother Albert Reed is here from Colleen, Texas. We're grateful that you are here and consistent, and we're grateful for you. Pastor Lucy in Washington is here from New York City, but in Columbus, Ohio right now. We're grateful for you. M.L. Hagler, God bless you. Greetings from Greensboro, North Carolina. Greetings to you, beloved. Yes. John from St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome, John. We're glad you're on tonight. St. Louis is in the house. Darlene Connell is here from Queens, New York. Welcome, Darlene. Thank you for being here. Minister David Williams is here, representing New York and New Jersey. Thank you for being on, Minister David. Glad that you're here. Pastor Diane Rodriguez is here, Portland, Oregon. United Church of Christ is here supporting. Thank you so much. And Cheryl Robinson is on YouTube from O'Fallon, Missouri. We say welcome to you. And Reverend Ursula McClure is here with us. City of Refuge, California is in the house. Minister Renee Weaver is here with us from Unity Fellowship Church, Columbia. Grateful for your presence. Thank you for being on tonight. Gwen McWilliams is here. City of Refuge, United Church of Christ, Henderson, Nevada. Oh, come on, y'all. Thank you so much. Angie Kyrie is here. Thank you so much, beloved. Virginia Beach, Virginia is in the house. I see you all, and I'm grateful for your presence. I'm still waiting for you. Y'all come on in the room. Come on in the room. While you're coming, I'm going to bring on Bishop Flunder, who helps me to have this conversation and keep it flowing. She is the senior pastor of City of Refuge United Church of Christ, the presiding prelate of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. Good evening, Bishop Flunder. Welcome. I'm glad to see your face. Glad you made it out here tonight to be here with us.
You know I'd be trying to get here.
Yes, I do know.
You know, it's as old folks say, irregardless to what else I had to do.
No.
You know.
Not irregardless, Bishop.
Got me on a fast train. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Yep. You've been spun around the world. You've been spun around the world, Bishop Flunder.
You know, and my theme song is the old gray mare. She ain't what she used to be. Ain't. It's some more old gray folks out there know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't qualify just yet, Bishop Vanessa.
Okay. I'm grateful. Thank you. I appreciate
that. But we are back home. We had a great time. We spent a wonderful time with Bishop Barber.
Yes.
And Repairs of the Breach. Incredible. I'll share more as we go on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bishop. And so we have a great guest tonight. Again, I hope you all are sharing with us and sharing for us tonight to let folks know what is happening. I see you. Pastor Jamie Washington, Elder Jamie Washington, UFC Baltimore is in the house. Yeah, Pastor Jamie, she said she said irregardless. She did say it.
I know who raised me.
Oh, God bless you, Badori. I say, Oyana, thank you for being here from Atlanta, Georgia. We are happy that you are with us tonight. And I have a great guest. I have known him for a very, very long time in the person of Dr. Oshawn Gadsden. He's a counseling psychologist, psychoanalytic scholar, and public intellectual. He wrote a book, y'all. He wrote a book. And the book is called Sacred Sons, A Healing Blueprint for Black Masculinities. Sacred Sons, A Healing Blueprint for Black Masculinities. And we are so grateful that you are here tonight. Dr. Gadsden, do us a favor and just greet our online audience, please.
Good evening. Good evening to all. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to this wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. Really quickly, let me shout out Pastor Tara Wilkins, doing God's work in Portland, Oregon too. Thank you. Bishop Paris LaBelle is here from the Carolinas. Thank you. I see you all. I see you all. I see you all. Thank you all for being here. Our dear sister Tanya Lorraine is on. Thank you, Atlanta, Georgia, representing REM. God bless you. Thank you for being on. I got some great questions for you, Dr. Gadsden, and I want to start off with our origin and intention, right? Because I'm always asking the same question I ask to every author that comes. What was the moment or the accumulation of moments that made you say this book has to be written now?
Thank you for that question. Once again, thank you, Dr. Brown and Bishop Brown, Dr. Bishop Brown, and Dr. Bishop Yvette Flunder for this opportunity. That's a very good question, and it's been a succession of events throughout my life. Let me just say, first of all, that this was one of the hardest books I've ever written. And I've written textbooks, articles, but this book was challenging because I wanted to make sure that I could get as much as I could get in it for a broad audience, given the experience and the type of clinical experiences, research experiences, ministry experiences I've had as it relates specifically to Black males. And one of the things that I continue to find was that there has been a lot of articulation about Black masculinities. And notice I'm not saying masculinity, and we can get into how I differentiate the two. But there's been great conversations about, or good conversations about Black masculinities, but oftentimes these conversations are really not had by Black men, not had by Black folks who have both scholarship and practical clinical experience wrapped into one. And that oftentimes when we are having conversations about Black masculinities, we are often still using deficit-oriented, pathologizing-oriented, problematizing-oriented language and research as our fundamental foundation of how we begin to talk about Black masculinities and what types of interventions, whether they be policy, legal, clinical, educational, that come from that deficit-oriented thinking. And so I thought it was important that we have a conversation, that a book be written where, firstly, it's written by a Black male who has continues to live out his own journey, my own journey towards self-individuation, my own journey into my own healing, but also has done the work and has had over 20 years of experience treating Black males in multiple contexts: school, forensic context, spiritual context, community context, and university context. And so I thought that this was an important, my lived experience was important to be able to give something that could be read again by multiple types of audiences. And as you hear with the title of the book, Sacred Sons, I wanted to make sure that this book did not perpetuate any ideas or othering of Black masculinities, and that we would reposition our way of seeing Black males, and understanding that the symptoms that we might see, behaviors that we might observe, is as a consequence of many ecological and spiritual issues, but that at the root of who we are as Black males, we are sacred.
That's so good. You bring us in. I'm going to let Bishop jump in soon, but let me shout out real quick. I see Sean Jenkins, Prophet Theresa Wallace, Dr. Dwayne Davis, Pastor Erica Geralds. Thank you all for being on. I appreciate you very much. You situate us from the very beginning. I need you to define masculinities before I start with the myriad of questions. Define that for us.
Yeah, it was very important for me to really, within scholarship or within Black masculinities, gender scholarship, there have been ideas of how to, the language behind masculinity. So you have manhood, masculinities, and then masculinity, and then you have masculinities. Masculinities really helps us to understand the intersectional nature of identity as it relates to Black males, as well as not only how Black men have those intersectional identities, but the saliencies of those intersectional identities and the context of their lived experience. It was very important for me, and in scholarship, when you hear the word or the term Black masculinities, it is making a supposition that Black men are not heterogeneous. That although we may share similarities in terms of some similar socializations, some similar issues and concerns, that by virtue of our different lived experience, we all get to define what manhood and what masculinity is for us, and that there is no one way to enact that. And in fact, the use of the word or the construct of Black masculinities really allows us to critique performative masculinities. It allows us to broaden and expand our rigid normative ideas of masculinity and begin to think about what are the ways in which spirituality informs masculine development? What are the ways in which sexual orientation informs masculine development? What are the ways in which race, ethnicity, psychological functioning, geographical location, and we can go on and on. What are the ways in which these things inform the way in which Black males understand themselves and understand the world? And so the term Black masculinities is used throughout the book purposely to remind us and to remind Black men that are reading that you fall into this book, that you are important, that your lived experiences are important, and that there is no one brand of masculinity that one has to account for or that one has to try to become.
Yes and amen. What say you, Bishop?
Well, all sorts of different things came to me while we were having this conversation. First of all, thank you so much, because this is a much needed conversation for us to have for several different reasons in this present time that we're in. When you call yourself, speak to yourself, Psycho-Spiritual Collective. Let us know where that came from for you and how it might be able to be shared with others.
Yes, that's a great question. When I think about psycho-spiritual or psycho-spiritual context, because I do a lot of my work from a psycho-spiritual context, it is meant to be heretical. It is meant to be heretical against the normative mental health establishment. What I am attempting to communicate, often implicitly, and when I get these opportunities explicitly, is that the psyche is the soul, that there is not a demarcation, and that the symptoms in which people often observe, clinicians often observe in the clinical room, for example, depression, anxiety, etc., these are just symptoms of an underlying spiritual split in one's sense of identity. And that the role of a psycho-spiritual practitioner, from my perspective, is not to medicalize or to just provide behavioral intervention, but to help the individual sitting in front of you to really deeply understand that the symptoms in which they're coming to us with, or coming to the consultation session with, it is really as a result of a split off, disintegrated sense of self. And the work is to be curious about where that happened, how that occurred, and really helping people not to just survive or not to just manage emotions, but to be more authentically themselves and to tap into their authentic psycho-spiritual identity that can give them empowerment and healing. And the way in which that works is in my consultations, whether it be organizational consultations, whether it be individual psychotherapy, coaching, the focus is on helping the organization. The focus is on helping the individual understand where the split is, and to understand what the symptoms, whether it's conflict organizationally, as it relates to people getting along, where that split is, and how each individual's contribution to that conflict is really at root some split in the sense of themselves. And it is a call to awaken that psycho-spiritual identity for a new level of healing and a new level of a relationship in multiple contexts.
I got two more questions, Bishop Vanessa. Can I
roll on? Go ahead. I got some, but go ahead.
Okay. So the next thing that came up for me is, how do you see the work as it relates to young and not so young Black men? What is unique as it relates to Black men over against men who are not, or were not born in and raised in the experience of being Black?
That's a great question. That could be a series. Woo. And so I transposed a theory. It's called PVST, Phenomenological Variant Epistemological, theory. And it was created by a Black sister, elder, I'm going to give her respect, Dr. Spencer. She's a developmental psychologist who is emeritus now at the University of Chicago. And I transposed her model and created a Black male-centered version of it. And what the model espouses is that there are a couple of developmental differences in the way in which Black boys are raised and socialized that put them in danger of actually not being able to have a healthy or purely healthy development across the developmental ages. And so firstly, to try to answer part of that question is first, other men, I call other race men who have privilege, are often not othered, often are in economic, social situations that allow their development to be what we might call healthy or normative, because they are the template. And because they are the template, they get lots of protection, lots of privileges, economic privileges, social privileges, educational privileges, that oftentimes Black boys, and we found this in the literature, even regardless of class, that Black boys do not get as a consequence of what we term gendered racism. Maybe we'll come back to defining that, but it's important for us to understand, again, to your question, that Black boys often, and Black men, are often being accosted by this idea or this phenomenon of gendered racism, where it is both their gender and their race that is being observed in a deficient and negative way, and having all sorts of not only embodied physical consequences, but psychological and relational consequences. What I found also, or what I espouse also in this transposed PVST model, is that oftentimes Black boys are not allowed to develop cognitively, socially, and emotionally, because we are often adultified. And what that means and what that looks like, for example, in school, it looks like the same behaviors of Derek that he is observed by the teacher, and the same behavior by a white or Asian boy. Maybe they both have lots of energy. Maybe they both can't sit down, or maybe it takes some time to redirect. Oftentimes what we see in educational context is that the way in which teachers will define the same type of behavior will be different as a consequence of race. And so oftentimes Black boys are not given and Black men, don't get me started, the benefit of the doubt, and are often adultified, which means they are not held. They are not, when I say held, not just physically held, but not emotionally held. They are not allowed to make mistakes, and they are often having to take on a level of responsibility or enact a type of behavior to survive these types of contexts in which they are in. The second thing that we often see developmentally with lots of Black boys is they are also exoticized. And what we mean by exoticized is that oftentimes Black boys are sexualized at an early age, are expected to have some sort of strength or some sort of power that developmentally, as we know, young boys do not have. But it is thought that they have this as the consequence of the archetypes and the collective consciousness that we intergenerationally have had and continue to have as it relates to who Black boys and who Black men are. And so there are so many ways in which Black boys do not get an opportunity to have these normal, quote unquote, normal developmental milestones or meet these normal developmental tasks because there are archetypes about them that impact the ways in which adults, teachers, police, you name it, institutions treat them. And often that treatment immobilizes their capacity to really know themselves or really to have confidence in their complexity.
Yes.
Wait, Bishop, don't ask that second question. Hold it. I need people to know that we're watching Beyond the Gatekeepers. This is Dr. O'Shawn Gadsden. The name of the book is Sacred Sons, A Healing Blueprint for Black Masculinities. I'm going to say it again, Sacred Sons, A Healing Blueprint for Black Masculinities. Now, if you want to purchase the book, Pastor Sue was already dropping that down in the chat, tell you how to do it. But he has agreed to give away a copy of the book and also an e-copy of the book. So we're going to have two giveaways tonight. You have to type hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers to enter. You can win a hard copy and or you can receive an ebook in order to win. But we do want you to purchase. This is a very important conversation. I want you to get your sons and get your nephews and your uncles and your grandparents, men, all of them, bring them all into the conversation, but bring in the women too, so that they can hear what this man is saying, because we need this for such a time as this.
Yes.
Bishop, your second question.
This question is a complicated question, but it is an important question. Do you spend time with or in conversation with masculinities that are a part of a person in a feminine body?
That's a very good question, Bishop. I have not had a robust experience with a patient that presents in that way. I have treated trans men who trans men and trans women, but I have not treated. No. It's not the population in which usually comes to me or has come to me in the last 10 years. Yeah.
I think it's important for some of the folks that are with us in conversation today who have children, who have these realities, and those children who have those realities, sort of the way that that being online for young men, and being online for young women show up differently, and it somehow or other, I guess in my heart of hearts, I would love to see us, and I'm not suggesting that this is what the divine that and the will and the clarity that you are sharing with us is diminished in any way. But I do know that there are people who are listening that are raising children in some certain ways that don't particularly specifically connect with how it was said when it came out, if you understand what I'm saying. And I was curious to know, have you had that experience, or maybe someone who is a part of us tonight, Bishop Vanessa, might have had experiences about that also, and would love to share maybe some bits and pieces of those realities.
Sure.
So, yes,
Absolutely. So I have two questions for you. Mm-hmm. You named distortions of Black masculinity. What are the most dangerous myths we are still believing right now?
Yeah.
Ooh, there's so many.
And let me just go back before you answer that question. Pastor Jamie says something very important. He said masculine identified women and trans men not to be confused or conflated.
That's right.
So that based upon Bishop Flunder's question. Now I'm going to say your question again. You named distortions of Black masculinity. What are the most dangerous myths we are still believing?
I think some of the most dangerous myths that I continue to see is that Black men, do not have the capacity to feel deeply. And I see this in the therapy room with couples, with spouses who believe that. I see that with some Black men who believe that, obviously, about themselves, who have internalized that pathological and insidious idea about their ability to have emotional range. And so I think that that's a huge distortion that I continue to see. I also continue to see this distortion or really conflict around one tapping into one's creativity and authentic self while having to deny one's masculine identity, that one cannot integrate or have both. Another distortion that I often see is that Black men cannot be victims of sexism. And that's one of the things in which we talk a lot about when we talk about gendered sexism, that Black men are often objectified and are often only seen for their value as it relates to the normative masculine roles that are expected of them, and that they too can be victims of gendered sexism. Another distortion that I see is that even in 2026, that there are some professions or ideas, or let's just say professions that are feminized, and that Black men need never to enter, or that they should not enter. And so, of course, that again limits the range of creativity and the range of the ability to be authentic. I often see another distortion, and we look these things up statistically, that Black men are not victims of domestic violence. And clinically, I've seen over and over again, and see the numbers rising, that Black men also, and it's often underreported as a consequence of the way in which Black men want to purport masculinity, or are not vulnerable, or not wanting to be seen as less strong. But we often see, we've seen the rates increase, and even in clinical practice, I often see Black men who are in fact victims of domestic violence. So those are some of the distortions that are that come up for me right now, that continue to be purported as it relates to Black masculinities.
And my second part, my second question is, when you say Black men have been conceptually incarcerated, what does that look like psychologically and spiritually?
That's a great question. Shout out to Wade Nobles, Dr. Wade Nobles from California,
Yes.
his term. What I mean by that is it limits. That he meant it to mean that it limits the person who is incarcerated. It limits their capacity to understand themselves. It limits their cognitive capacity to perceive and to see themselves and to imagine themselves outside of what they currently are. So that's the psychological and cognitive component. It also limits their capacity to know the other. When you are misrecognized, you will misrecognize the other.
Yeah.
And so you have lots of Black men and boys, as a consequence of it being invalidated or misrecognized, are limited in their capacity to recognize and know the other, because it is clear to me that identity is co-constructed through relationship. And so if there is no capacity to know oneself and feel comfortable with showing oneself fully, with being vulnerable with oneself, that limit in self-vulnerability will translate and transfer to other relationships of all kind. And so when we think about that incarceration, that conceptual incarceration becomes practical, because what it does, it limits every area and dimension of functioning in that Black male's life. And it really produces, and many Black men in therapy have often said this, where I just feel like a dead man walking. It really produces men who are functionable physically, where they get to work, they go to school, they know what they're supposed to do by rites of passage, by the normative expectations of family, church, society, etc. But there is no deep interiority. There is no deep knowing and understanding of self.
Oh, wow. So there are some questions that are coming up. People want to chime in. The way I would like to do it, though, this person is asking, Kia Thomas, and I may not have said your name right. You will correct me. Well, I'll just say Pastor Thomas. If you have a perspective, feel free to start writing it out, and I will read it out to everyone. So, Dr. Gadsden, you've said a lot, and people are taking it, and I have some questions, and people are asking questions as well. I'm going to hold on that question, but I will ask it. So there's obviously trauma, there's obviously conditioning, right? And you spoke about both things. What are some behaviors in Black men that are often misread, but are actual trauma responses?
That's a good question. Anger, irritability, violence, even. And what we see is that oftentimes these behaviors are often as a consequence of depression, unresolved anxiety, unresolved trauma. For example, we see oftentimes, pejoratively, we talk about Black men being very sexualized. Well, a lot of Black men may be sexualized or sexualize their pain because of unresolved sexual trauma. You would probably believe, but some would not believe, the many men that have come into my office who have come to talk about relational issues, who talk about their sexual prowess, who talk about their sexual behavior, and oftentimes 6 months, 7 months, as the relationship between he and I is joined to a level of comfortability and trust, I often find that there is sexual trauma, there is rape, there is abuse, there is mishandling that now gets sexualized because as an adult, and even in an unconscious way, that sexualized behavior gives that individual some sense of control in the moment. And so, yes, behaviors like sexual behaviors or prowess are often not really at root that, but in many cases, for many Black men, it is trauma being relived through the body. And of course, now not just impacting him, but impacting his sexual partners. Again, we see lots of diagnoses for young boys of child conduct disorder, of oppositional defiance disorder. And oftentimes at the root of this, again, is anger toward parents, anger toward being a racialized being, anger toward oppression, depression and anxiety that Black boys sometimes cannot or do not feel authorized to emote, because oftentimes they have not been given the permission, the safe space, or the tools to do so. And so those behaviors or those feelings that are unresolved, they get acted out in these ways. Those are some of the examples of some behaviors that are misrecognized often.
So I want to just repeat what read what I see here. Pastor Thomas says, so incarceration is a state of mind. Yes, I was physically there, and obviously emotionally and mentally too. The expectation of being a Black man was that I was okay and could handle it. Contrary, it breaks one down in many ways. I deduced that it made me molded. It molded me because of the environment. You also have, do you want to say something about that?
No, I want to finish.
No, okay. You also have a statement. I am grateful that you have these dialogues for these skilled individuals, because one who is addressing trauma right now, not only in men, but also in people from what we call church. He is speaking liberation for many Black men across the board. Okay. Now, thank you so much. Go ahead.
I was so glad that that last individual brought that up. And of course, as you know, Dr. Brown, I have much experience in the church, and we could have lots of conversations about the danger, or the, let's say it like this, the way in which sometimes the Black church participates with normative ideas of masculinity, and of course are not just dangerous for those who don't identify as male, but of course are dangerous for us all. But certainly as it relates to our conversation today, how the way in which we exegete or our theology, or the way in which we think about spiritual hierarchy, can really be dangerous to the psyche of Black boys and Black men. And we often have, when we're talking and consulting with Black churches about how to meet the needs of their Black male congregants through curriculums, or even through the theology and the preached or taught word, that it is important that wherever we find Black males, whatever context we find them in, that the context of the teaching, the context of the healing has to be psycho-spiritual in nature. And it has to be one that invites Black boys and men to be more deeply curious about the ways in which they've been socialized, deeply curious about the ways in which they show up, and be deeply curious about whether or not the ways in which they understand themselves and perform their brand of masculinity, how is it working out for you? What are the psychological, what are the embodied psychosomatic, what are the spiritual and relational consequences and implications of the way in which you see and live out your masculinity? And I think that that is also a big part, or needs to be a big part, of this type of conversation.
Thank you. Bishop, go ahead.
I had a thought, because of several parishioners that are part of our church and our churches throughout TFAM and some of the organizations that we're a part of. And I would say, what would you say to a single woman who is raising a boy? And sometimes in some of the cases that we have, some boys, it's not just a boy. As one of them said to me, for reasons that she does not understand, she makes boys. I said, well, you had a little help, but apparently you are a boy maker, and that's just it. What would you say about what it is and feels, and how you could perhaps speak? I know it's hard to do that on a meeting like this, but what would you say to what are now in many of the places where I am and have served, single women who have Black boys? What are some of the things that you would share?
Dr. Flunder, that's a powerful question. The first, I want to enter that my response by starting with Audre Lorde. Mm-hmm. And in her essays, she talked about just this with her son. Mm-hmm. She talked about it from the perspective of being married to a woman and him not having a father and being disciplined, being raised by what she would call feminine energy. Mm-hmm. And that she was afraid, that she had fear that how was he internalizing this? Could he not understand that womanhood was both strong and vulnerable? Would he feel some sort of angst or anger as a consequence of not having a father in his life? And how could the family structure in which they had speak to that in an honest way? And also what types of resources would be needed? And she felt that in her essay, she didn't want him to resent that because she was, from her perspective in the essay, wearing both the feminine and masculine energy for both parents. And so I think the way that I would answer that question, and this is a series of its own, but the way I would start answering that question is, one, that single mother has to, like Audre Lorde, be curious about the ways in which she's showing up. She has to be curious, firstly, before going outward, to really examine deeply her archetypes of Black masculinity, and to be able to psychologically and emotionally differentiate the father from the sons. Because oftentimes what I've seen in practice is that there are some single women who are parenting Black boys who are still carrying pain of that relationship with the father, and unconsciously, and sometimes I've seen it consciously, really making the sons pay for it. So I think it's important, firstly, for that single mom to be curious about her own positionality psychologically. How is she showing up? What types of archetypes does she have about Black masculinity? And where do those archetypes need to be healed and polished? And where might she need to be healed? She needs her own sense of her own place of therapy to work some of those things out. I think the other piece of it that comes to mind is that thinking about my own childhood with a single mom, is that it's really important for single moms in that situation to be communicative with their sons, to show levels of honesty and vulnerability, to be able to, I don't know it all, I may mess up, coming back and saying I'm sorry, because what you don't want to happen in those situations, you don't want to have that son or those sons negatively internalize femininity in a way that they take it on, and then they begin acting it out or having fear or anxiety about relationships, or having relationships with people who mirror, in this instance, their mother. So you want to be communicative, you want to parent empathetically. It's really important to have support, to have those boys, if you can afford it, in therapy, some sort of supplemental assistance, mentorship programs where he or they can get some of that masculine energy. And what I'm trying to say is that Black single mothers need not feel like you have to carry it all. That is your total responsibility. But that from a collectivistic perspective, that the community, this is where it's important that we have a community of people to help us to raise our sons. But I think it's really important psychologically that Black mothers, single mothers, really are doing their work, and that they are not pushing on any unresolved emotionality and feelings toward their son, and that they are not doing what we talked about earlier, adultifying their son. He is not your little man. No, he's not. Don't do that. Don't rob him of his childhood. Don't rob him of his vulnerability. He's not your little man.
That's right.
That's good.
That's good. But I know you got something, Bishop. I can feel it right here. But yeah, right there. I just want to thank you for saying that. I have said that to people before, like, stop treating him. He not your husband. He not your boyfriend. He not your little man. He's a kid. Treat him like a kid. So thank you for saying that. Minister Renee Weaver has a question. And if you have questions, I need you to write the word question and then ask the question so we can ask Dr. Gadsden. Given the fact that Black masculinity is subjective to both the person identified and the person doing the identifying, how can there be a healing blueprint clinically when the range of Black masculinity is varied and subjective at each level and intersection of life that may not have yet been encountered by clinical professions?
Yeah, she's in my chapter 3 of my book. And again, that is why the book is called Black Masculinities, just because of what she's saying. That from a clinical perspective, what happens, at least the way I practice from a relational perspective, is to build that relationship. She's exactly right. And so it is to ask. It is to ask him, how do you identify? It is to have a conversation about intersectionality and the intersectional identities that he carries, and to ask him to be curious about which of those identities, if not all, are salient to him. How has he been impacted as it relates to those intersectional identities? When did he first come to know and understand those intersectional identities? What is the psychology of those intersectional identities for him? Is there any trauma associated with any of those intersectional identities? And so from a clinical perspective, there is the clinician who assumes is the clinician who is doomed. It is really important that a relationship is developed and that we give space to all of our patients, but we're talking particularly about Black men and males, that we give space for Black males to self-identify and to believe them and to honor those identities and to begin the conversation or the clinical work, getting an understanding and a theory from them as to what brings them to the counseling session or to the work or to treatment. What is it that they want to work through? For example, I have a young man that I'm seeing now. He's 17, African-American male, just lost his mother of stage 4 cancer. And so I'm dealing with grief. I'm seeing actually him and the father. There are other siblings that are being seen by other clinicians. But we're dealing with grief and his adolescence, his budding adolescence. And so for much of our sessions, I just let him talk. He asked me questions. I don't know how it came up, but he discovered I went to London. I might have mentioned it. And he said, "Doc, next time you're taking me to London." Right? Now, from a normative, traditional paradigm of clinical work, we shouldn't have that type of conversation. But I know that he needs that conversation to bond with me. I know he needs a safe space that isn't too serious because he's already holding so many charged emotions right now. And so I say to him, "Do you have your passport?" No, doc. Well, how in the world are you going to go to London with me? You've got some work to do as it relates to your passport. What happens? The next session he comes in and he just begins to just talk and in tears and talks about his fears and his vulnerability. Why? Is because I set up an environment where he felt seen and where he understood that the most important thing was not the agenda of his father or my clinical agenda, but it was the agenda of being known, of letting him be known, of giving him space to be known. And so, yes, to that question, we never know the subjectivities or the ways in which our clients or patients see themselves until we ask, until we sit with them and we ask and we understand and help them to understand the intricacies of those intersectional identities.
Yeah. We asked a question earlier And it was about what are the most dangerous myths we are still believing. And so somebody is responding to your answer, and they are saying, is it the inability to feel deeply or express deeply?
Ooh. Your listeners are good. It's inability for both for many men. To feel, because if one cannot feel, if one is split off and not integrated, right, and is living in some way a disassociated life, an emotionally spiritual disassociated life, where they are just being robotically, right, and there's not a fullness of a depth of feeling. And when we're talking about a full depth of feeling, acknowledging and being able to tolerate multiple emotions at the same time without being overtaken, right? That's what we mean by feeling deeply, and to assign meaning to those feelings in a meaningful, creative way. That's how we understand deeply feeling. If one does not have that capacity, they won't have the capacity to express deeply. It's from within, without. It's not the other way around, right? So I think it's both. That if one can't feel it, one can't express it. And the quality of relationships will be a mirror of that discomfort, of that not inability. We all have the ability, but not having tapped into that emotional capacity or learning how to tap into that emotional depth. And so it gets expressed oftentimes as ambivalence, disengagement, this is not important. Those are some of the ways in which it gets acted out, because the individual is certainly anxious, right? Even if the anxiety is not conscious, the individual is holding lots of anxiety about the expression or the context in which he may find himself in. And so we often, all of us, right, use coping strategies to manage the anxiety of what is being required, expected, or asked of us. And so that's why in marriages, that could be a whole nother conversation. We have lots of the conflict because there are many Black men who haven't tapped into it, and their partner's asking them to express it. I can't, but I can't tell you because I'm supposed to be a man and you expect it. But I can behave in ways that are normative to what you think masculinity is. So you get the rage sometimes, you get the disconnection sometimes. All of those, again, as we talked earlier, are not innately characteristic to masculinity, but those are ways in which people are trying to cope. Those are simple.
Yeah. Bishop Sonia, welcome. Thank you for being on. I'm glad to see you. I want to say to everybody, you are watching Beyond the Gatekeepers. This is Dr. O'Shawn Gadsden. He has a book. It's called Sacred Sons, a healing blueprint for Black Masculinities. Okay? Y'all need to hear that. All right. He is offering to give away a copy of the book tonight. Also a copy of the ebook. So there'll be 2 giveaways if you put hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. He has also offered, if you want a consultation, you got to go into the chat area. You should see information where you can contact him if you want a consultation. Now, I need y'all to understand that. We didn't say the man was doing stuff for free and all of that. That's not what we're saying. He is offering you a consultation, okay? And the information is here. The phone number is there, 202-246-9998. And then you go to Gadsden, ADSDEN, PhD.info. And you can get in contact with him. All right. So I'm glad about that. I wanted to move you all in that direction so that you will know. So there are more questions. Bishop Flunder, I know you got something to say. I'm letting you get in right now.
Thanks, she done let me in. Thank you, Jesus.
I'm letting you in.
Thank you, Bishop. I have one other question. And that question is, in the generation that we are in right now, tech is a companion, particularly for boys, but it is definitely a companion. And it also, to some degree, can be a predator. I've seen that happen. I've experienced it in and among young men, and also where they have one parent, and they don't have an enormous amount of time. It's a babysitter. It's a company keeper.
Yeah.
And there are several things that are out there. What would you say to the parents of young boys or young, almost out of teens, in some cases, boys, who are in that paradigm and what it is doing essentially in many, many ways? What would you say to the parents today who have that kind of reality happening with their young boys in particular? I would say young girls too, but for the sake of this conversation, it's vitally important, I think, for young boys.
Yeah. Having an 11-year-old daughter, yes, I understand that. First, I would recommend that parents read The Hurried Child. And it was written by developmental psychologists who wrote the book to talk about society's insidious and dangerous phenomenon of parents being so neurotic about their careers and neurotic about their own selfhood that they are hurrying children developmentally, that they're rushing children into developmental tasks emotionally, psychologically, neurologically, and relationally that are not appropriate. I think that's just a good book or a resource to have, because she also talks about, and it's an older book, but she also talks about strategies of re-engaging with our child or our children so that they can reimagine play and be developmentally appropriate and enjoy their developmental age or their developmental ages. I think also pragmatically is setting boundaries. You think about, I think about Roblox for my daughter, and even lots of boys do Roblox. And there was a recent lawsuit that came out about that game and people seducing children, boys and girls, into sexual relationships and them meeting them up. And so, yes, Bishop Flunder, Dr. Flunder, it is dangerous. And I think that parents, for boys who are often left alone and who are often thought to fend for themselves because they're strong enough and they'll be okay, that parents have to re-engage with boundaries. For me, I have access to her phone. I see who she's calling. Literally, there are programs where you can see who's calling. She can't make any purchase without me. Yes, she's mad. Yes, she texts me, come on. No, I'm not coming. And you can talk to your therapist about me if you're mad. That's why you're there. But so I think the engagement of boundaries with this technology, which demands or will demand for parents to become a little bit more astute with what's going on technologically. Taking these things, the old school, taking them away at a certain time in the evening, because although we love our children and we know our children love us, they don't have the neurological or cognitive skills in the frontal lobe to often monitor themselves. And so at this age, we need to monitor them. So that old school monitoring, that new school, us becoming more technologically astute and adding apps in situations where we can set boundaries with our children. I think the other thing is, and I'm certainly learning still with an 11-year-old to do this as in terms of my own busyness, is where's the engagement with the parents?
Yes.
We have to engage with our sons. Movie night.
So true.
Going to dinner, the park, finding an activity that they like. So that's also important in this is technological, that we have to, in some ways, show them that real, authentic relationships and context are just as fun, valuable, or more than these technological tools or apps that they have.
Yes.
That's great. I'm glad that you said that.
That's a whole other book, Doc. Okay.
That is. It really is. It really is. It really is. So let me ask two more questions. How does your work make room for queer Black masculinities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I work from a relational analytic perspective. And what that really means is that the goal of the work is to build a relationship within the therapy, to get the client or patient, however you want to call, comfortable with becoming vulnerable, but also I believe and have seen over 20 years that oftentimes the very things that the client is coming to the therapy or about as it concerns relationships get transmitted in our relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And so, for example, I remember seeing a Black male. I was seeing him for 2 years during my postdoc. And every time I made an interpretation about what I thought was going on with him, yes, sir. That's good. That's good. And at one point I said, well, God, I'm not that good. I said, why, can you tell me, why is it that you don't contradict or that you don't say you see it a different way? And he said, because you remind me of my father.
Is it?
And my father taught me I would dare not ever disagree with my father. And so he was repeating that same relational cycle in our therapy context. And so we had to work through that transference he was having. We call it transference that he was having of me, so that wouldn't disable the work. With that same thought system is what I would do with a male that identifies as queer. I need him to tell me who he is. I need him to feel comfortable. I need to learn. If there's an area that I don't have lived experience or clinical experience, I consult, I read, I listen to the patient and understand what's most salient for him. Now, he may come into the office, his sexuality may be more salient. It may not be. Sometimes people come in the office and it's their race that's more salient for them, or their cognitive skills that's most salient for them at that time. And so it's my job to understand, to hear the narrative of that particular patient and to be curious about how his sense of identity as a queer Black man is impacting the way he sees himself, is impacting the thing that he's bringing into the therapy or the reason why he is starting the therapy, and to begin to be curious about, well, what do you want to do with that? What are options that you've considered or not considered? Is there any trauma that is impacting your capacity to see beyond what the situation is that you're bringing to treatment? In other words, there is a narrative that continues to build up and a relationship of knowing that I carry with any patient who comes into therapy, irregardless of how they identify or see themselves.
Mm-hmm. I like
that. Yeah, I do too. I'm going to ask this question. You kind of touched it, but you didn't. You went over it. But I think it's important for us to have it. Since you are the psychologist and we are the theologians, how has theology contributed to the shaping or the misshaping of Black masculinities?
Woo, both. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you're trying to get me in trouble with Dr. Vanessa. Dr. Flunder. I know a lot about you both, but so I have a treat. I'll start the conversation with entering a conversation like this. I have a workshop that I facilitate, and it's titled "Treating Porn and Masturbation from a Psycho-Spiritual, Black-Centered Metaphysical Perspective." And I'm using this as an example to your question, because the way in which I talk to people in these workshops about porn and masturbation, it really revolutionizes people who are participants, particularly those participants who are religious or who feel themselves to be religious or Christian, and who have not made room to understand the possibility that pornography and masturbation are pleasure phenomenons that can be enacted in healthy ways. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, I see Black men who come into, I'm getting there to that question, who come into therapy, right, with these guilt feelings about their sexuality, sexual practice, desires, because they have been indoctrinated with theology that is rigid and dualistic and does not give room to embodiment. full embodiment of self, full embodiment pleasure of self, because the scripture or how it's interpreted or the religious environment says it is a sin. That is not what you're supposed to be doing. I remember sitting under, do you remember Ivan Luster, Dr.?
Yes.
I do. Bishop know him too.
Very well.
I sat under him for a little spell while I was in Brooklyn. I've had so many past lives. And after service, we were standing out, and this woman, she was Puerto Rican, and she came to us. This is what she said, and he had preached on fornication. And she said, you know, in her accent, I'm not going to try to do the accent, but it would be helpful if I could. And she said to him, I enjoyed your sermon. God bless you. But I want to tell you something. She said, God gave me this body, and I will give it to whomever I desire to give it to. And I was on the ground. Well, what she was talking about, as I began to understand it from a more psychological perspective, as I became more advanced in training, was the right to own or embody what pleasure meant for her.
That's
so
right.
I bring that up to say that there are many ways in which theology, the ways in which we think about hierarchy, God, man, woman, child, the way we think about that we have integrated social hierarchy into our theological and spiritual identities, the ways in which masculinity has often been seen, even from a religious perspective, as only provider, as the priest, the provider, has huge psychological and relational, and the research says psychosomatic implications, because you have lots of men who are holding on to expectations they cannot meet.
That's right.
And it is destroying their body. And so I think that, again, theology, theologians, preachers, first of all, I think that every pastor and every bishop, you need a prophet psychologist on staff or clinician.
It makes sense.
You need someone for your own stuff, also someone to help you manage what is happening, what you may not even be conscious of, that's happening relationally and congregationally. Everybody needs a Nathan. I believe that Nathan was a psychologist, even if he was a prophet psychologist, right? You need to help you understand it's you.
Yes,
right? Where you get drawn out. He didn't tell him he was a man, but he drew him out. That's what real good clinical psychospiritual work is. It's the helping of people to draw them out so that they can become conscious of what's going on with themselves, and they can do something different with that.
That's good teaching.
That's great. It was so good.
With so many miserable people in and around church.
What you say, Bishop?
It's miserable. It's miserable. And constantly telling you what you shouldn't do, when in reality they can't get their own self together, and they have a whole nother life. And when it is found, because it always is found, people cannot.
It always is found.
They can't keep sweet water on their stomach. That's what my grandmother said. But the truth of the matter is that when it is found, and then a plethora of people are just totally torn because of what they thought about their leader is so different than their leader's reality. This is holy work to get what you need before you can try to tell other people what they need. This is very, very good teaching. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much.
I've been in therapy for 20 years. I still have an analyst. He's an old Black man from New York and he's stronger than me.
Got it.
To have someone this, no. Not tonight, Oshad. You're not gonna. He's strong. You need someone that's stronger than you.
Yeah.
We often see Bishop Dr. Flunder and Bishop Dr. Brown is that a lot of these preachers have so much trauma that is sexualized because of no one steps to them or holds them accountable because they have so much. Right. And we need to have systems of accountability and empathy where preachers, leaders can just shed and cry it out. And I had a leader say to me this summer, and I was invited to speak for this person, and I won't name. And said to me, you know, O'Shawn, I have never been to therapy. And he said, you know, this person said, I have held so much stuff that I know it's a part of what I think is killing me. That I do not trust anybody.
Wow.
Because he fears that it would get out and it would impact his ministry. And I said to him, I said, you know, sir, in empathy, that's a lot. I feel sad. That's a lot to hold. And my prayer and my prayer for you is that at some point you get, you take the risk to trust somebody. You take the risk to get into a space where you don't have to be the psychologist. For me, you don't have to be the pastor. You don't have to be the leader, but where you can simply let it all out.
Yeah.
And really heal and more deeply understand yourself, because it's never too late.
Good teaching, brother.
It's so good. It's so good. You're freeing people up, freeing us up. Those that are leaders, you know, you touch base on so many things. You know, somebody did ask, do you only counsel men?
No.
No, right.
Couples.
I said no. Couples, men, whatever. So if you want a consultation, you should see in the chat section, comment section, wherever you're looking, all the information about the book. But then underneath, you should see how you can contact Dr. Gadsden for the consultation. And so again, if you want to win the book tonight, you're putting hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers, all one word. He's giving away a copy of a hard copy and ebook. All right. So I know it'll bless your life. I know that he'll bless your life. Maybe you want him to come where you are. Maybe you have a gathering coming up and you want to contact him. His information is there for you to do that. Probably one of the best conversations we could possibly have, Bishop Flunder, at this time, given the circumstances in this world, how Black men have always been targeted, but continue to be targeted. I think that this is the conversation that we want to have. Given the violence that we also experience within our own communities, this is a conversation that we want to have. So I see you all gathering and putting in Beyond the Gatekeepers. I'm going to let y'all go on and do that. And Dr. Gadsden, Bishop Flunder, I'm going to give you opportunity to have last words when I come back.
Okay.
So you've been watching Beyond the Gatekeepers tonight. It gives us such great joy to bring conversations around faith and justice and liberation of all kinds. And so we're asking that you will continue to support our broadcast by sending a donation. And you can send it to www.paypal.me/TFAMJustice. And we would happily receive whatever it is that you feel in your heart, your spirit, or just your wallet to give on tonight. We are grateful for whatever it is that you do or will do. We also are setting up for a conference. Dr. Danny J. Bahuro is the founder and executive director of Sankofa CPE. It's a clergy and chaplains mental wellness conference, April 21st to the 24th in Chicago, Illinois, actually in Oak Brook, Illinois. So you can go to www.blackchaplainsrock.com and you can see the information that's there in order for you to participate in the conference by way of attending. So we look forward to seeing you in Illinois. And we want you to save the date on Sunday, April 26th. Bishop Flunder is going to be preaching at Abundant Peace United Church of Christ, Las Vegas, Nevada, where the senior pastor is Wilfred Moore. And they are celebrating a building dedication. Pastor Will and his congregation have purchased themselves a building. Yes. And so it's going to be a great, great celebration. We are excited for him. And so if you are in Las Vegas, please support that service. It starts at 10:30 a.m. And we are having our own conference, our leadership conference, practicing Ubuntu, resist, repair, regenerate. Yes. Bishop Flunder is inviting us to come to Charlotte, North Carolina, Sonesta Hotel. There is early bird pricing, student registration. Go to www.tfamconference.org in order to find out more information about the conference. It is July 22nd through July 25th. We hope to see you in Charlotte. All right. Bishop Flunder, before we go to spinning everything, we want to give you all the last words. Let's do that.
Well, I have to say this was an incredible opportunity to talk about some things that are very close to our heart and mind, and we may be looking the other way because we don't want folks to know that our children are in trouble and or that we are in trouble. But God did not give us a spirit of fear. God gave us power, God gave us love, and God gave us a sound mind. And what we heard in this conversation today, in my thinking, speaks to those realities. Someone who has done the work to help us. We don't always have to have all the answers. Sometimes we need to find someone who can help us to move along. Let's make that holy work.
Yeah.
It is necessary to make it holy work. God bless you. Thank you so much, Doctor. This is just wonderful. And then we intend to, I think we may need to bring him to the meeting, Bishop Vanessa.
I think so. I think this is, because, you know, what I keep hearing, a lot of it is about repair.
Yes.
And it's about regenerate. It's about all of it, right? And who better to help guide all of us through these conversations, right? So we can certainly be in touch. Absolutely.
That's a great idea. God bless you. Thank you again.
Dr. Gadsden?
Well, it's certainly a part of tonight. I was so nervous, and someone would say, well, why are you so nervous? Two of the biggest deals in the body of Christ, as I can imagine, Dr. Vanessa Brown and Bishop Yvette Flunder, I'm sitting with. And I want to say to both of you, both of your work speaks for itself, the seriousness of your work, the longevity of your work, and seeing you, Dr. Brown, from 135th Street?
131st.
131st, I got to get it together.
Yes.
So where you are now is a testament of creativity, of expansion, and destiny that was already and always there. And so I am so grateful to have been asked to come. I want to say to every Black male, every Black man, I want to remind you of your sacredness.
Yes.
That in a society that defines us, that tries to define us, and that based on those definitions treats us in ways that at times can cause us to lose our lives. I want to remind you that you are complex, you are beautiful, you are enchanting, and expansion is yours, and that you are sacred. And I want to invite you, wherever you are, to find a resource, find someone that can help you establish a safe space where you can feel comfortable to explore your sacredness. And to others that are listening that support Black men, I pray that you strengthen yourself, that you can support the complexity of Black men. And I hope that we all would build community in a way that every one of our identities are not just tolerated, but that are celebrated, that are embraced, that are deeply understood, so that we can take this power and make change on every level.
So beautiful.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, we're going to go and we're going to give away some things tonight. So if you put hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers, that means that the system has picked it up, and Pastor Sue will spin.
This is cool.
Melody Rochelle.
All right.
Melody Rachel. If I said it wrong, I'm sorry. You are the winner tonight of the ebook. And Dr. Gadsden will make sure that you receive it if you give me all of your information, right? So I'm going to need you to go to our Beyond the Gatekeepers direct message and give us the information on how you can receive the ebook, and he will send it out to you. Thank you so much. All right. We're going for the textbook. Somebody's going to win that textbook. I knew you were going to do it. Reverend Bernie, you are the winner of the textbook tonight. Right, God bless you. Do me a favor. Make sure that you put all of your information for delivery into our direct message box. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. Listen, thank you all for watching, Dr. Gadsden. I know I'm going to have you back. First of all, this is not your only book. You have a second book. So tell us about the second book. Tell us the title at least.
Psychology Through Our Eyes, a culturally exclusive introduction to psychology.
Awesome.
I put my foot in. I'll be ready to talk.
I bet you. Good. Good for you. We're excited. Thank you so much for joining. Those that are on Beyond the Gatekeepers, been watching. First of all, thank you, Bishop Flunder, for the excellent work and helping us to navigate this conversation. Want to thank also all of our audience, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you are watching from now and wherever you will be watching from later. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
God bless.